They all rush as fast as they can, and Jaehwan can feel the energy around. Judging by this, it means that the fortress master is in that state already, a full dead. The spiritual pressure he is feeling right now, much more than what he felt from the dead that he fought previously. It's coming from deep within the fortress, or rather, more accurately, beneath from it. This makes him think of Yurin, and the favor he asked him for with a serious face. He remembers that he said that he won't have to pay for any of the damage he caused inside of the fortress, and will additionally provide him with protection should it be necessary. All he needs to do for them is one favor: to save the fortress master. Jaehwan notes that their fortress master is going through deadification, and Jaehyr says that indeed he is right. He explains that out of nowhere he just went berserk, which is weird, because usually it only happens like once a week, but today, of all days, it just happened. He is telling him all of this in advance, just in case he gets the wrong idea about things. The fortress master is a really good person, and before his deadification unfortunately began, he was basically a living legend, since he was someone who also went to the Abyss expedition, with Mullark, and the Divine Physician. This makes Jaehwan pay more attention to the conversation at hand, and Jaehyr says that, from what he saw at least, he is also able to perform the dead slash, right? Since the Divine Physician is in that poor state, can't he do it in his stead? Jaehwan outright refuses him, as he simply imitated what this old head did, and is certainly not as good as him. This might have been different had he learnt from him, though. Suddenly, the ground starts to tremor beneath their feet, and Jaehyr now fears the worst, as he knows what that is. Suddenly, a surge of dead energy comes out of the fortress, and releases a large shockwave all around. Jaehyr covers himself, but that's when he notices two peculiar people standing at the top of the fortress: the Disruption Tower Captain and the Despair Tower Captain. They say that it's been a while since they met, and Jaehwan hears their whispers, which say that the guy carrying the Divine Physician is the one who can also use Dead Slash. Jaehyr pleads with them to step aside, as there is an urgent matter they must attend to, but they also probably know what already. They descend, and note that what he is asking them to do is quite a problem, as they have their orders that need to be completed. Jaehyr asks whose orders are those, and with a stern look on his face, demands to know if they are really intending to go against the wishes of the heavens like this. They say that the only heaven they have, and worship, is the forbidden heaven. They rush in and jump in the air, preparing to attack. Jaehyr notices how fast they were, and pushes Jaehwan out of the way before anything can happen to him. They both land at the same time, creating a large explosion upon impact, but Jaehyr managed to block the both of them with only his blade. Jaehwan watches him and notes that he is doing quite well. Jaehyr thinks that he didn't expect at all that the Forbidden Heaven clan would have people inside of the fortress. He notes that they grew quite a lot for outer fortress residents, but still, do they even know who they are facing right now? They say that he shouldn't underestimate them so much, as they are not the same people anymore. Jaehyr advises the both of them to think very carefully about this, as if they turn back now, the fortress master will surely forgive them. One of them notes that if he's talking about the same fortress monster that is being locked up down there now, he can forget it. That thing, because it can't be called human anymore, can't even control its own strength, and can't distinguish between good and evil anymore. That is not the same heaven that they served. Him being the extermination squad captain and all, why is he still serving the thing he swore to destroy, despite the current situation? Jaehyr looks at them dead in the eyes, and notes that he believes, with all of his heart, that the Tower Master will return to what he was originally. Suddenly, Other comes behind him and swings the hammer at his head. Before Jaehyr can react, the hammer lands, throwing him into a wall. If only he would have been a little more wiser, they wouldn't have had to fight like this. Isn't that the case? Jaehyr tries to get up to his feet, and thinks that these two are just Stage 4 adapters, so there is no way they could defeat someone like himself, who is a Stage 5 adapter, even though he is outnumbered. How are they doing this much damage in the first place? He can't even estimate how fast or strong they are anymore, as this isn't any type of normal growth he has ever seen. It's almost as if they received the boost from the deadification. Something is seriously wrong here, and this is starting to get too dangerous. He tries to tell Jaehwan to leave while he still can, but Jaehwan is having none of it, and throws Chung Hyo at him, who is still passed out, even after all of this. Jaehwan explains that this was revenge for pushing him earlier, and that's when the disruption team captain grabs his attention. He asks if he really is able to perform the dead slash, just like the divine physician. Jaehwan asks what it is to them, and they start talking between each other using telepathy, which Jaehwan can see. They gather that the guy in front of them is a non-adapter, so he is probably talking nonsense. What can he really do with that short sword of his? Also, his physique isn't great, so he won't even be able to throw a proper punch, they think. Jaehwan instantly transports himself behind them and asks if they are talking about a punch like this one. Before the disruption captain can react, his cheek is met with Jaehwan's fist, which sends him into the wall. The despair captain tries to defend himself immediately after seeing this, and Jaehwan explains that they have way too many openings, which basically leaves them defenseless. He punches the disruption captain as hard as he can, which breaks his helmet a bit. He stands on his feet, however, and slashes downwards, which Jaehwan easily dodges. He starts spinning the spear, which creates some distance between them, allowing him to charge in, while Jaehwan is still on the retreat. He thinks that he became much stronger than he was, so where did this sudden energy come from? The need of revenge? Or perhaps is his heart full of hatred? He looks at him one more time and deduces that it's neither of those. What drives this lunatic is fear, and fear alone. Are they really trying to betray others in their condition? Just plain ridiculous. Jaehwan notes that he isn't the savior they think he is, that tiny old man is. However, killing the both of them will be an entirely different story. He jumps high into the air and prepares to descend like a hawk upon him. Inside of the fortress's deepest chamber, Yurin, accompanied by someone else, watch the fortress master, both with concerned looks on their faces. Yurin explains that it hasn't even been a single day since the dead slash was used on him, so why in the world is the deadification still advancing? The divine physician himself came this morning, and they together confirmed that the deadification had calmed down, so why did it go berserk all of a sudden? He can't believe that something like this happened when they just found a sliver of hope, a silver lining to all of this. If the fortress master had lasted for just one more month, they might have been able to release him of this damned curse. Earlier, Chung-hyo explained that it's too hard to do right now, as Jaehwan's dead slash is just an imitation of his, and the situation is very different from Mino's, the girl he saved. The fortress master has a corruption which has seeped into his very being, and in that sense, they are lucky, because a normal person would have become a dead by now. But if they had just another month, Jaehwan's dead slash might have been of great help, as even though it hasn't been tried ever before, it just might be possible for two people to use the dead slash in unison, and moreover, if it's him they're talking about, he might be able to even do it alone. Yurin bites his lip in frustration and thinks that there are people here who know about Jaehwan, but damn it all, as he was sure that there have been traitors inside of this place since then. He remembers the talk he had with the fortress master, who said that people who are able to control the corruption of their soul have appeared. Yurin asked how that is possible, as only the Emerald Bug Clan could do that previously. The fortress master confirmed that it is so, which is exactly why he must go and have a look himself. Yurin was hesitant to let him, as matters related to soul corruption are the most dangerous thing one can be interested about. He is positive that the other captains would be very happy to come with him. The fortress master said that it seems he doesn't trust him all that much, but he should, as he is one of the few people who managed to survive that battlefield. And although they lost the fruits in it, he is still going to be involved in matter regarding the lives of the people from this fortress, no matter what. But unfortunately, he came back extremely corrupted, and with horrified eyes, almost as if he saw something which he shouldn't have. That's when these people appeared, and started watching him the moment he came back from his walk around the outer fortress, where he got infected in such matter. Now that he thinks about it, things just line up too perfectly. Was it really Maihan that did all of this? He tells everyone to be calm, as this situation is a serious one and warrants carefulness. Yurin notes that this situation is too dangerous, so they should go in only after the divine physician himself gets here. Maihan says that if they delay like this any longer, this whole fortress will meet its end. Yurin explains that they can't ever hope to perform the dead slash without the divine physician here. So is he intending to kill the fortress master now? Maihan notes that even if they are to all charge at him together, they can't hope to win. He already knows this, right? Given the situation, they are forced to use the dead seal. Yurin starts sweating profusely at this notion and notes that he can't do that, as it is the very last resort, just in case they can't hope to do anything else. Maihan explains that there is no going back if things are delayed even further, so with the dead seal, they can at least pressure his spirit power, which is the only thing they can still realistically achieve at this point. Yurin notes that they don't have the spirit stone that the dead seal uses anyway, so what we ate all they do now? Maihan says that they all know about it, so he should stop trying to hide it. Out of the corridor, the Dark Shadow Squad captain arrives, with a box in hand. Yurin is extremely shocked, as even the Dark Shadow Squad captain, who belonged to the inner administration, is a traitorous dog. That box contains what Jaehwan had, the Spirit Stone. Maihan explains that the future of the entire Gorgon is at risk here, so how dare he try and hide such a thing? He knows all too well what would happen if the Fortress Master really completed his deadification. He isn't really intending to let that gigantic dead roam around in this peaceful fortress, right? He has seen with his own eyes many times, even recently, just how much of a threat a single mid-sized dead is to Gorgon. A gigantic one that would come from the Fortress Master would bring upon calamity and destroy everything in its wake without any rhyme or reason. Does he truly want that to happen and kill all of those innocent people? Yurin thinks about the situation. The Fortress Master is basically going berserk, and the Divine Physician is nowhere to be seen. What he said is not unreasonable, and he gets what he is trying to say. However, it doesn't mean that they can do anything, even if they have the Spirit Stone, as the Dead Seal technique is a well-kept secret that only the Emerald Bug Clan can fully utilize. Maihan tells him to not worry about that, as he has already brought people in here who know how to use that oh-so-infamous technique. They are not of the Emerald Bug Clan, but they will do the job just as well. Yurin feels that something is extremely wrong here, so at this point, if they really perform the Dead Seal, the Fortress Master's spirit power will also be sealed into the Spirit Stone, he is certain. Since there are no successors within Chaos, anyone who gets hold of this Spirit Stone has the Fortress Master's spirit power and will inherit it, becoming the next master of the Gorgon Fortress. If that Spirit Stone falls into some dangerous hands, it will be disastrous. Suddenly his eyes widen as he sees someone pick up the Spirit Stone with just their bare hands, something that only the Emerald Bug Clan and Jaehwan are able to do. He thinks of the Fortress Master's words, who said that people who can control soul corruption appeared, so this must be them. Everything that has happened up until now, from when the Fortress Master was corrupted until he went berserk, was all of this the Outer Administrator's grand plan? Yurin tells the others behind him to capture him, but they don't move a single muscle and don't even look at him. He falls to his knees, as this is the only thing he can do. They were all in on it, so there is nothing he can do anymore. One last time, he apologizes to the Fortress Master. Because of their complacence and incompetence, they weren't able to protect Gorgon in his stead. For that, he is truly sorry. He sheds tears, but that's when the ceiling above him shatters, and a large ray of blue light descends, shaking the entire fortress to its core. They all wonder what is happening, and Yurin's eyes are filled with hope once again. The Shadow Squad captain gets in front of Maihan and is clearly annoyed by this. From that hole, Jaehwan and Jahir arrive, with the still sleepy Chung Hyo. Maihan demands to know who they are, and how dare they trespass in here. Jahir tells him to stop his foolish act, and throws the two defeated leaders in front of him. Their traitorous acts have been exposed to the world already, as his people have spilled out plenty. The Disruption Team captain apologizes, and in that second, explodes. Jahir demands to know what he is doing to them, and Maihan explains that he probably offed himself upon being exposed. So how can he blame him on someone wanting to take their life like this? Jahir thinks that his act is just ridiculous, and tells everyone to get a grip on things, as this is a full-blown rebellion at this point. If the Dead Seal is completed, everything the Outer Administrator planned will come to fruition. Suddenly 4 men surround him, and one apologizes for doing this. This is the will of the Forbidden Heaven clan, so all he needs to do is stay put until the seal is completed. Jahir calls them cowards, and Jaehwan looks at this. He notes that in return for saving the Fortress Master, he was offered protection at first, but he made the wrong promise, as Gorgon can't even defend itself nowadays. So, they will change the contents of the promise. He will save the Fortress Master, kill all of the traitors in this room. All he wants in return is this old decrepit man, as he wants to set up the Abyss expedition once again. This catches everyone by surprise, especially Maihan, who seems to not be happy about this. He calls his idea a bunch of nonsense from an unknowing fool. He already heard of the story about a certain person who was able to kill Janya, who was dead, in one single strike. He thought that it was a lie at first, but now he thinks that it's true. If this really is the case, they will have to go all out on him. Jaehwan clenches his sword, and Maihan commands everyone to attack, and they surround Jaehwan and Jahir in an instant. With a few light thrusts, he clears out the people who attack Jahir, and even cuts the hand of the Shadow Captain. He keeps attacking, but they keep coming at him, in an endless onslaught of people. He stops attacking and sighs. Jaehwan waits for all of them to be in one place, and uses a normal thrust to wipe them out. The attack also reaches Maihan, who desperately tries to block it, but can only deflect it, as it is too powerful to fully block. The attack lands next to the Fortress Master, and Maihan stares in shock at the gigantic hole it made. If he got hit with that, he is almost certain that he wouldn't have made it out alive. Jurin and Jahir are also very shocked. Outside, whispers on what this rebellion is planning to do can be heard, and Jaehwan finds out that they will use the black cloud on the entire Gorgon, which makes him quite mad. He tells Maihan that he is the outer administrator of this fortress, and also the Forbidden Clan's first elder. He doesn't know exactly what he is trying to do, or why he wants to corrupt souls so much, but he knows this. He likes people like him, quite a lot actually. Maihan notices that he is charging his power, so he orders his men to take that guy down, no matter what it takes. They all charge in, and Jaehwan says that he is very thankful for them, because if he knows that people like them exist in this world, he can easily destroy it. He releases the attack, a mighty thrust that can't hold a single color, so it changes constantly. The attack pierces the heavens and explodes into smaller thrusts, in a flash of beautiful lights. Jahir tells Jurin to get up, but he is too mesmerized by this. This is overwhelming hope, something which the Fortress Master thought that everyone in this place needs. An overwhelming hope that doesn't falter in the face of anything, no matter what. He simply cannot believe that now he is experiencing the hope he spoke of from this man who is speaking about the annihilation of this world. Everything is turned to rubble, and most if not all of the rebellion is put out. Maihan is still alive, but his hands and legs have been cut off, leaving him utterly defenseless. He calls Jaehwan a truly monstrous beast. However, he is too late, as Gorgon is already doomed, and the Fortress Master even more so. Jaehwan shuts him up for good, and asks Jahir if that old geezer is still sleeping. Jahir explains that he won't wake no matter what he tries, so Jaehwan grabs him and smashes him against one of the remaining walls. That certainly wakes him up. Suddenly, the Fortress Master starts shaking uncontrollably, as the deadification they have all tried to stop previously has begun. The system warns everybody that the Fortress Master's soul corruption has unfortunately reached past 99.9%, so the only thing it can do now is estimate the danger level. The others wonder what is going on, and Jahir screams for the Fortress Master, but nobody answers. The system explains that the estimation can't be done in time, so the verdict is that this will be an extremely large dead. Alarms start blaring all over Gorgon, telling people to evacuate. They all rush to the exits, and the guards to their best to lead them. But what can only wonder, just what is happening in that fortress right now. Chung Hyo tells Jahir to escort Jurin out of the premises, as they have something to do. Jaehwan will be coming with him, as even if he can't save anyone with that sharp thrust of his, but instead, he will be helping in clearing the path. Jaehwan asks why he got a new sword, and when. Chung Hyo angrily notes that he broke the last one, so they should stop with the chatter and get to work already. They enter the spirit world, inside of the Fortress Master, and Chung Hyo takes no time in cutting him with all of his might. This brings back the memories of them drinking until they were passed out drunk, or trying to be, and how much they had at the time. Chung Hyo explains that engraving these kinds of memories that have been forgotten due to the deadification is what Dead Slash is really about. If they are filled with memories about their loved ones and the things they cherish most, at least, the worst can be avoided. Suddenly, his expression changes drastically, and a new image pops up, one of war and death. Chung Hyo wonders if this really is the Fortress Master, but when the figure turns its head, It reveals its eyes, which are filled with hatred, anger, and bloodthirst. Chung Hyo says that cannot be the fortress master, but his eyes turn into the same ones the figure had. The ground starts to shake around them, and Chung Hyo explains that this shouldn't have happened. Something is seriously wrong. This thing is not the fortress master anymore. It's something much more deadly. He breaks out of the restraints and starts convulsing rapidly while rising into the air. His eyes turn dark for a second, but are renewed with the same red pupil shortly after. His fingers become slim and long. His back is filled with darkness, and a crest appears on his forehead. The possession of the fortress master is now complete. Chung Hyo watches all of this in horror and explains that thing isn't the fortress master. It's something he knows, or someone. He slowly descends to the ground, and the very moment he touches it, they are both struck with an extremely heavy pressure. The figure starts speaking, and notes that it would have never guessed it would be able to descend into this world with the help of this body. In the end, even this person, who was quite powerful, became a dead, right? He also recognizes Chung Hyo and begins smiling widely. What is an incomplete awakened like him still doing around here in chaos? Didn't he find what he wanted in Abyss 9 years ago? Chung Hyo starts shaking uncontrollably, as this is the master of the Dead Palace that is situated in the middle of chaos, and also the only being that is able to open the door leading into the Abyss. His name, the Soul King, Catastrophe. Jaehwan tries to use question on him, but nothing seems to work, as he is very similar to a dead, but at the same time, a completely different being. Catastrophe flicks his finger and asks why he hasn't left chaos yet. This flick erases Chung Hyo's established world in an instant, and replaces it with a dark, vicious world where he can do as he pleases. He asks if he hasn't left because he wants to protect this utterly pathetic and useless world. Chung Hyo is at a loss for words, as with just one finger, he managed to erase his established world. Catastrophe also looks at Jaehwan and finds him as quite the curious being, since he is a human that still possesses his very heart, even after completely awakening. Chung Hyo thinks that this guy's authority is called Dead Descent, and he most definitely used it on the Fortress Master's body right now. But if that is the case, and this is just a measly clone of him, how can a clone emit this much pressure? It's becoming too overwhelming, even for him. Jaehwan says that if he failed, now naturally it's his turn. So he was actually thinking of killing that thing right about now. Catastrophe is quite amused by this notion and asks if his words hold true. He snaps his neck into a crooked shape and notes that truly, he is a very interesting person. Chung Hyo tries to stop Jaehwan, explaining that he can't do anything about it right now. Not even the great Muller could hold a candle against the Soul King. Even if this is a clone, he mustn't rush into battle like this. Jaehwan urges him to not be so scared, as he is sure he can beat him. Chung Hyo looks at him and wonders, just how is this child so calm when facing an impossible task? Catastrophe starts laughing loudly and maniacally, with his mouth being contorted to open even wider. Suddenly he stops, and after a few convulsions and dark energy emitting around him, he pulls out a sword out of his gaping mouth. If he really meant that, he should give it his best shot, right? He really wants to see what a foolish awakened, who still possesses the heart of a human, can truly do. Chung Hyo recognizes the sword he just manifested. It is called the Void Sword. This weapon is extremely powerful and feared, as it turned half of the previous expedition squad into dead, with just a slash. He cannot believe he is seeing that thing go into action once again. Catastrophe charges in, and Jaehwan barely dodges the attack. He explains that he has seen eyes like his previously. He is trying to go into the abyss, isn't that right? Chung Hyo is quite surprised by this reveal, as he didn't know. It is a fact that they don't have much information about this guy. But will he really be going to the abyss, of all places? Catastrophe notes that people like him, who are trying to get to the end of this world, still exist, despite him thinking otherwise. But he is much too weak to do anything, as he is not even as strong as that Mayor Mullark from over 900 years ago. He strikes at Jaehwan, who uses his hand to get away from his slash, and uses a thrust to remove the other arm. Jaehwan thinks that he is already at an advantage, since he removed his arm, but Catastrophe just grows it back, and uses Jaehwan's surprise to his advantage. He moves swiftly to his side and manages to hit him in the arm, but the rest of the attack is missed. Jaehwan uses a thrust to hit him in the torso, But Catastrophe is not fazed in all, so he uses all of this and tries to kill Jaehwan right now with a large strike. After the rubble and dust settles, only Jaehwan's cape remains, as he has used it to back away. Catastrophe explains that this corruption is basically a disease that advances time. So with just a hit of the Void Sword, several centuries or perhaps even millenniums would pass by on that particular wound. Souls that can't withstand this grow extremely old and corrupted. With all of this combined, they turn into dead. Jaehwan notes that something like this won't move him, so he strikes his own old flesh and soul, noting that he will just rip it all away if he really has to. Catastrophe is quite surprised that he would cut away a part of his soul, which has only grown old like this. He must commend him for this impressive mental fortitude. However, that is all he has right now, and can't hope to ever defeat him. Suddenly, shards come out of his chest and mouth. Jaehwan is shocked at this, and those shards turn into void swords, which are ready to strike at a moment's notice. The swords fly into Jaehwan's direction, who tries to protect Chung-hyo. Catastrophe notes that, now that he has managed to take a closer look, isn't the sword he has within that crafted sheath a replica from the Mayor Tower? That is pretty impressive, considering it is just a toy, made by the Mayor. A few swords get past Jaehwan's defenses, and strike him in the leg and arm. Chung-hyo screams at him to do that, and Jaehwan takes no time in piercing himself in order to stop the aging. Catastrophe doesn't stop attacking, however, and their swords clash, creating a large shockwave which sends Chung-hyo away. Catastrophe explains that if he keeps fighting in this manner, his soul won't last for long. Jaehwan sneers at him, but thinks that he is right, as he won't be able to do anything if he keeps striking himself like this. No matter how many times he tries to use question on him, he just can't see his weakness, and he also can't focus, as there are strange particles around, messing with his sight. He thinks of Chung-hyo's explanation of the world, which is named the White World. It is a world where he remembers those who have long disappeared and recreated them, using his imagination. Each awakened holds their own unique world, and their world is made by a keyword that they get when they awaken. It is something that is made from their desires and emotions, so a strong awakened can pull in even more beings into their own unique world. Jaehwan thinks that if this really is the case, he can at least try. He strikes weapons with Catastrophe and uses the momentum to make some distance. With that, he activates his eyes glow as he activates his very own world, the Moon Eye. Chung-hyo looks at this real depiction of the world and notes that this is hell, this world that he has been living in all of this time and enjoying himself is hell. A hellish world, made from only loathing and seething anger. Catastrophe is ecstatic, as this is his opponent's ideal world, extremely beautiful. Jaehwan takes no time in striking him with all of his might and uses his sword to pin him to the ground. Jaehwan thinks that those particles that originally blocked his sight are gone, so now he can focus on the fight and on defeating this guy right now. Suddenly, large tentacles rise out of Catastrophe and he grabs Jaehwan with them. He is constantly charging at him like a fool, without even knowing how to really end all of this. He pins Jaehwan to the ground with extreme force, which breaks the ground beneath them and smashes him even further and further until nothing of the ground remains, only rubble. He stands above Jaehwan and says that he is one who doesn't give up on his hatred. It has truly been a while since he has met such an interesting existence like him. He slowly pulls out the sword from his chest and aims it straight at Jaehwan. All of this was quite the fun adventure, but it is a pity, as all things must eventually come to an end. The sword lunges towards Jaehwan's head, but just when it seems like nothing can be done anymore, he wakes up and his eyes are golden. In that second, he rises his sword through Catastrophe and cuts him straight in half, while also decapitating him perfectly. This is not really over, as he is only just getting started. He is now ready to fight. Catastrophe notes that his pointless struggle is just plain ridiculous, as he can't hope to ever lay a hand on him in any meaningful way. He starts regenerating from only his head, but this time he contorts into something more macabre and large, so he towers over Jaehwan. The crest on his forehead also grows, which makes Jaehwan think that this is not good at all. Catastrophe has transformed into a dubious shape, with elongated limbs and neck. He takes no time in striking Jaehwan, who dodges the first attack, but he doesn't stop in the relentless attack, so he uses his other hand to send Jaehwan flying, who couldn't have ever hoped to dodge this one. He smashes into a wall, which makes him vomit blood, and Catastrophe cuts the rock he was stuck in with all of his might. Jaehwan, however, had plenty of time to dodge, and makes his way behind him, where he prepares an extremely large thrust. Catastrophe noticed him, and they clash into a flurry of blue and red. Catastrophe explains that he has watched countless beings try to build the world for millennia, and they all climb to the top of this tree to try and appease and sate their own curiosity. Is he also the same as them, trying to find some kind of answers from this world? What exactly is he asking then? What does he want to know? He presses his sword hardened on Jaehwan, who seems to have been caught by surprise with this. However, Catastrophe's sword stops, and a blue hue emits from its blade. Now he truly understands his question. The world itself is his question, isn't that right? Jaehwan managed to block the attack, but the impact has taken a toll on him, as he is bleeding once again. Catastrophe continues interrogating him. What is his question? What does he want to make of this world of his in the first place? Destruction, annihilation, or perhaps even extermination? But judging by this world and the things in it, he wants the end, and that is the most fitting name of this place. What arrogance to make a world such as this one. A mere human dares to question the worth of the illusion tree and its very existence? Such arrogance must be punished, as not even the wisest men can ever hope to start questioning the illusion tree and why it is here in the first place. He starts slashing around and seems to have Jaehwan in bad position, but then Jaehwan notes that he doesn't know what he is talking about. Catastrophe notes that if this is not the case, what he is doing isn't questioning, right? Jaehwan stands below him and thinks that this situation is all too similar to what he has experienced before, with Beast Rain. This makes him think of something, however, as what he is fighting now is a clone that possessed the Fortress Master. So, that would mean that he can do something. He buries his feet into the ground and uses all of his might into one mighty thrust. This surprises Catastrophe, but he doesn't have time to dodge at all, so he takes the attack full on, which makes a gigantic hole in the wall. Catastrophe slowly regenerates and notes that his impudence seems to know no limits. Does he actually think he could ever kill him, in any way possible? How foolish, even for a mortal, he is too prideful and weak. He is bored now, so he will put an end to this little game. He charges in, wanting to swallow him whole. Jaehwan, however, stands proud and tall, looking at him with his golden eyes. Before he can take a bite of Jaehwan's succulent flesh, he jumps high into the air, and a few golden orbs appear once again, and a gigantic line, showing him the path to victory. With newfound confidence, he charges in with all of his might, and lands directly on his back, and on the line that is formed. Catastrophe is now shocked, as what this man just did is a technique that holds the name of crack. Jaehwan keeps pushing his sword in, and a gigantic blue explosion occurs. Catastrophe admits defeat, and notes that he will be waiting for him at the entrance that leads to the abyss. He, the one who lives for the end. With that, the water clears, and Jaehwan, accompanied by the Tower Master, sit in the water, tired and relieved. While resting from the most grueling battle of his life, Jaehwan thinks that he needs to become stronger, no matter what. Just thrusting isn't enough anymore, especially since he used the strong thrust, which worked wonders against a lot of people. But versus a single strong individual, it is not as strong, due to the damage radius being far too wide. In this fight, he was only able to use it to distract and buy time, whenever he could. It seems that after all, thrusting isn't the solution to everything like he expected, and so he needs to create a new technique to deal with more powerful enemies. The day begins anew, and the others are checking on Chung Hyo, who seems passed out once again, but this time, not from drinking too much. Suddenly, the Fortress Master speaks to Jaehwan and urges him to come near him for a little while. Jaehwan does just that, and the Fortress Master explains that, even though he became a dead, he could still see, and observed him with great interest. He thanks him for fighting the Soul King on his own, and grabs his arm very tightly. Perhaps, after all of this, and his continuous rule, it is time for Gorgon to experience some well-deserved changes. So, if he may, he would like for him to take all of this. The Fortress Master gives him some energy through his arm, in the shape of a snake, or dragon. He notes that there is a familiar energy all around him. He can feel all of the warm memories he has made, and cherishes, even though he doesn't know it. Before disappearing, the fortress master tells him one last thing: to never forget how a human is and feels, no matter what. The other guards arrive at the scene, and they all stare in the direction of Jaehwan, who has made his way out of the rubble, but also holds a new patterns on his arm, the very same that the fortress master gave him. They all bow down, and Jaehwan, with a tear in his eye, thinks that if this was the fortress's master's final wish, then he will uphold it. He bows down as well, and greets the new fortress master. Jaehwan is taken back by this, and just stares at them. 2 days later, things return to normal, and the people start rebuilding with what they have. Jaehwan sits at the office of the fortress master, but doesn't believe himself to be one, as he told them countless times that he is not going to be that and take on the title. Jaehwan says that perhaps he may have forgotten the contents of their promise, so he would like to inform him about them once again. He shows him the conditions, which specifically said to save the fortress master, which is now impossible to complete. Jaehwan asks if he's telling him to take responsibility for the fortress master dying, and Jaehwan notes that it is something of the nature. Jaehwan tries to twist this around in his favor, saying that even though the old fortress master did indeed pass away, since he, the new fortress master, got out of that alive, that should resolve the condition, right? Jaehwan smiles and notes that he is very right, so therefore, he has to keep that promise in the future too, since he is now the fortress master, even though he denies it. Jaehwan laments having so much responsibility on him, and explains that he has no time to waste around here, as he needs to climb higher and get to the abyss. Can't he just pass the position to someone more capable and willing? Jaehwan tells him that something like this is not possible, as Gorgon wouldn't acknowledge that person anyways. Jaehwan thinks that Gorgon is the pattern that the fortress master gave him before passing away. Did it really choose him? Jaehwan explains that since the position of fortress master isn't something that can be just passed down to anyone, he must fulfill his duties. The only time the fortress master changes is when the current one dies, like what happened recently. Additionally, he has some documents that needs to be looked at for the day. Since he is now the fortress master, he also included some useful tips and records that will certainly help him be better. Jaehwan picks up one of the files and sees that it's filled with laws, mostly about how nobody can disrespect the fortress master. So that is why everyone only said good things about the fortress master before. Jaehwan tells him that additionally, he has a few items that he may find useful in the drawer, and he will be going back to organizing books. Should he need any assistance, he should feel free to call for him. Jaehwan, out of curiosity, looks inside of the drawer and finds a crumbled up paper, which was written by the 17th fortress master. The paper slowly takes a new shape and surprisingly starts speaking. He doesn't know who he is speaking to, but congratulates them nonetheless. When he discovers this, it means that he has become the brand new fortress master. By now, naturally, he is probably thinking hard about how to rule over Gorgon and its people. Jaehwan wonders what this strange piece of paper is, and it continues to explain. He should not worry about such matters, as the fortress master has one thing that they need to do: to enjoy themselves, as a good fortress master is one who knows how to play, and most importantly, party. He should just leave the security to that branch, the inner fortress to the administrator, and so on and so forth. He is not the first, and probably not last, to give out such advice. It has been passed down by numerous fortress masters, so at least it must hold some value, right? Based on the status of Big Brother, more than half of the fortress master's soul got corrupted previously, due to them dying from overwork. Jaehwan feels the intention from this paper, and sees how it was written. This advice is for his own good, but also for Gorgon's and its people. He pleads with him to not be greedy for more, not change anything, and most importantly, to never lose himself. Every single existence in this place knows already that this world can never be changed. Because of this, what it truly needs is not change, but an extension of life. So, what is needed is not change for the minority, but peace, for the majority that can hold out and survive. So he begs him, one last time, to not be greedy. A good fortress master here, in chaos, is one who does nothing at all. Jaehwan ponders the situation for a bit, and thinks that he finally understands what kind of existence the fortress master is in this place. An existence that exists solely to get rid of hope, for an extension of life. an existence that stops changes for the life of the majority so that they can live peacefully. Yurin comes back into the office and asks what he is thinking about, as he seems to be pondering something deep, and Jaehwan notes that, after thinking, he is going to get rid of this position, the Fortress Master one. Yurin asks what he means by saying that, and Jaehwan doesn't tell him, except noting that they need to start from now. So he asks him what the Fortress Master means to him, as an individual. Yurin thinks of the question for a bit, and explains that a single fact they can take from this is that a fortress simply means that it's a fort, a military building that has a single purpose, to protect people from danger. Jaehwan asks, if the enemies were to not exist any longer, what would happen? Would this still be considered a fortress? Yurin comes to the realization that, if that were to happen, the purpose of the fortress would be no longer, and the position of the Fortress Master would no longer be needed. However, he says that a fortress without any enemies is not really possible. Jaehwan says otherwise, and notes that he will be the one to unite all of Chaos under one banner. In Chaos, there aren't any funerals. Instead of that, people do a ritual that is known as Soul Farewell Procession, which is held to send off those who have passed on for good. If usual funerals are held to remember and rest the dead, the Soul Farewell ritual is held to a race of the dead. As it is being held, people would talk about the souls of the dead, and after it is over, they will never speak of that particular person ever again. That is the very last thing that Chaos can give to those who have left Chaos for good. Yurin starts speaking for the ritual, and notes that by now, they all know the old Fortress Master, Emil Grochesk. But they weren't able to bury him, because he has disappeared from this world completely. He had not a single shred of a physical body left, and his soul is long gone. He came a nutrient for the illusion tree, and only left memories of him behind, which is precisely why they will forget all about him. For the last week of the Soul Farewell ritual, they will talk about him fondly, for the last time, and for his sake. They will keep talking and talking about him and his exploits, until nothing remains. Jaehwan, who was sitting in a corner all of this time, thinks that finally, he knows the name of the old man who passed down this position to him. He also hears others' people's thoughts about him, and they are quite skeptical as he hasn't lived even for 100 years, so he is inexperienced. A woman that stood next to him all of this time notes that he looks like he wants to beat them down, and smiles. Another person comes to him and asks if he's the new Fortress Master. Chung Hyo stands next to the woman and notes that she is too late, calling her the Priestess Clan's vice leader. It seems like that old weasel from the Savant clan has beaten her to it, in terms of greeting the new Fortress Master. The woman finds this quite interesting and asks him what side he will be on. Chung Hyo explains that he bets that there will be a time when he can establish that for good. The weasel asks Jaehwan for his age, which he replies with 60. He finds this quite strange. Was there perhaps a hidden institution in Gorgon? Or is he perhaps the son of the Fortress Master? This comment makes the people around them look in disgust, as they found this comment extremely rude towards the old Fortress Master. The weasel notes that it doesn't matter anyways, and hopes to work with him in the future. He is the vice clan leader of the Savant clan, Yang Ilhan. He thinks that, based on the rumors he heard, this new Fortress Master is a non-adapter, so now he can get back for the humiliation he faced 10 years ago. Back then, he was tasked to set up a branch in Gorgon, no matter what. But while he was bribing the other guards in order to get in, he got caught by a certain gate captain and promptly arrested. Afterwards, he was sent to the Fortress Master, who told him that, after trying to bribe the guards, he caused a lot of disturbance in Gorgon, so he can't allow him to set a branch here. He was rejected in an instant by a stubborn Fortress Master and an even more stubborn gate captain. But today, he will be getting his revenge. With this random child being the new Fortress Master, this opportunity seems to be predestined by the heavens themselves. They shake hands, and Ilhan uses the highest level illusion skill he owns. The spell enters Jaehwan's mind, and he is sent to the 8 gates of hell, where fire permeates throughout, and a large draconic being starts to attack him. The others notice that he is sitting still, and guess that Ilhan bastard must have used the 8 gates of hell, which is extremely shameful, as that is too harsh for someone as young as 60. Ilhan smiles from ear to ear, as by now, this kid should be tasting the hellfire from the Crimson Dragon, Tiamat, in the illusion world. Soon enough, he will be wailing around, and he will have no choice but to obey his orders, like a good dog. Jaehwan notes that this place, Chaos, sure has a unique way of shaking hands, but if that is the case, it is his turn now. He uses the same type of magic to let Ilhan see the true world, and the moon eye that watches them at all times. His eyes start to get bloodshot, and he screams uncontrollably, while cowering in fear. Jaehwan explains that usually, he should be executed for insulting the fortress master in such a manner. But he is letting him go just this once, so he should be mindful the next time they meet. Chung Hyo finds this outcome quite boring, but the woman is very surprised. After all of this, Jaehwan prepares to make an inaugural address to everyone in this place. He gets on stage, and Chung Hyo feels that something very strange or bad is about to happen. Jaehwan presents himself, and that he also doesn't know a single thing about Emil Grochesk and who he was. Not about the work he did, the way he lived, nor the kind of man he was. And if he's honest, it's not really any of his business to know. All that is important right now is that they are not happy with him, and he gets it. He doesn't have a lot of spiritual power, is pretty young, and if they thought that he received this position by pure luck, they would be correct, as he suddenly became the fortress master without ever wanting to. They are unhappy with him being in this position, and he also doesn't want it. So, what should they do so that everyone is happy? After thinking for a short 30-second, he has come to a perfect solution. Whoever it is, it does not matter. If they manage to defeat him in a one-on-one match, they will be given the position of fortress master. This makes Kaiman, the leader of the Southern Sea Clan, laugh, as this is quite a refreshing change for a new fortress master. He asks if there are any conditions to this, and Jaehwan explains that sure, there is one. The period of this will be 1 month, and if they all fail in taking his position, every single one of them will become a part of the Abyss Expedition Squad that will be departing in 2 months. Yurin thinks that he believed in Jaehwan quite a lot. Since he saved Gorgon from the Forbidden Heaven clan, he already recognized him as the next fortress master. Even if he made those utterly ridiculous declarations, like uniting chaos and all that, he simply observed, even when he felt uneasy. Because in the end, he is still the fortress master after all. Surely he wouldn't do anything that would harm the fortress, right? Well, that is what he thought, until Juhire came in screaming that things are starting to get out of control, while he was having his morning routine. Having had enough, Yurin stormed the office with extreme anger and asked Jaehwan directly, just how long is he intending to ignore his position? He walks up to him, but only finds Carlton in his place, who was supposed to be in the medical ward. This enrages Yurin even further, and he screams for Jaehwan, which can be heard even outside. Below the fortress, Jaehwan uses a few statues that are shaped like Carlton for training, which Chung Hyo finds to be a waste, as many ladies would want to possess something like this, especially those from the ward that took care of him. Jaehwan notes that doesn't matter right now. Instead, he should check out the new technique that he created. Jaehwan starts gathering green energy around him, which intrigues Chung Hyo. The pose he has while doing the preparation is definitely softer, and looking at how he guided the sword, it must have been inspired by his slash. Since that is the case, the technique name should be Chung Hyo Thrust, right? Jaehwan asks if he wants to get thrusted with the technique, as he will after hearing what he just said. Chung Hyo is angry at his retort, and notes that he's been getting more and more arrogant while unsheathing his sword. Jaehwan doesn't give him the time to do anything and unleashes the technique at him, which hits the wall above them. Chung Hyo is about to start tearing into him, but that's when something heavy falls from the ground, the Lighting God clan leader, Woon Yong. A few minutes ago, he and his subordinates were crawling through the basement and were standing right above Jaehwan. Yong got ready to attack, as he wanted to become the fortress master. Even if people thought that assassination was cowardly, to him, it is the truest form of combat. That's when he got blasted by Jaehwan's technique and put out of service. Eventually he wakes up, and Chung Hyo immediately jumps in his face, which spooks him. Yong asks what he's doing here, and Chung Hyo notes that he was always a small little weasel, so he knew the day would come when he would do something dumb like this. Yong asks who that young guy is, and Chung Hyo tells him that is the new fortress master. Yong notes that all of this just doesn't make sense, as he hasn't even heard of someone like him in Chaos, or even in the Almighty Land. Chung Hyo sighs and explains that indeed, nothing makes sense. Everything about that man doesn't make a lick of sense. Yang is surprised that he would say that, but also that this didn't count, and he wants a rematch, as he still has some fight left in him. Jaehwan tells him to come forward, as they will fight once again, if he wishes. Yang charges in extremely fast, but Jaehwan dodges, which makes Yang smile, and use a spinning attack. Jaehwan again dodges, which annoys Yang. He wasn't going to use this technique, but now he feels compelled to. He gathers all of his energy into a large ball, and thinks that he will destroy this guy in one strike. Unfortunately for him, Jaehwan teleports behind him, and notes that technique takes way too long to charge up. And so, the first competitor is defeated. Later he reports back to them, after telling everyone that he, the Lighting God clan leader, barely lost to him, just like they ordered him. Chung Hyo congratulates him, as now, there will be a lot of strong people who will challenge this new fortress master. It has been exactly 100 years since they got where they are, in one of the clans of the Almighty Land. The Yuun clan, Yoon Yong, the now possessor of the Lightning God art, was but a slave, to be abused and messed with whenever his master's fancy. This happened right after he cleared the tower, and his comrades also suffered the same fate, to be slaves for the rest of their lives. However, one by one, his friends either were commanded to fight in battlefields, get sold, or simply die from the abuse. After 100 years, most of the comrades that he grew to cherish passed away, in his head and in real life. Despite all of this though, he survived, and after 100 years of complete obedience he was officially announced as a servant of the clan. But on the same day that he was chosen to be a servant, something inside of him screamed to defy his masters no matter what. That voice was right, as he couldn't bear to live like this, not even for a second. And because of this, he betrayed the trust he had garnered over 100 years, and went into the secret manual vault of the Yuun clan. That is where he found and stole the Lighting God art, and when he learned it, his body seemed to have regressed to its younger days, and he felt invigorated. This was the secret knowledge that the Yuun clan tried to hide, this immense power. Naturally, things didn't go so well afterwards, as he was chased for well over 20 years due to this theft, which actually led to him dying like a dog. But on the bright side, he got summoned to chaos and was able to become the 9th of the 10 clans. However, this man, who has yet to live for even 100 years, simply became the fortress master of chaos. Additionally, he also made Chung Hyo smile, something which you do not see from him, as he saw true despair when he went on the Abyss expedition. Still, despite all of this, he is still pouting, as it seems kind of unfair. Chung Hyo notes that he got lucky, as he managed to meet him before he experienced true despair. His face is basically screaming denial about that man, but he will tell him something which might change his mind. 1 week before he arrived, Gorgon was almost taken over by the Forbidden Heaven clan. This surprises Yang quite a bit, and he waits to hear more. Chung Hyo explains that he doesn't know how all of the personal insight of Gorgon was on their side, but it seemed like they were preparing to occupy Gorgon for a long, long while. Before they could do anything too hurtful, however, Jaehwan saved all of Gorgon with a mighty attack, and even fended off the Soul King, who descended down here by possessing the body of the Fortress Master. That is all that the current Fortress Master has done. Yang is shocked by all of these mighty achievements, and notes that he should have told him earlier, instead of letting him get beaten like that. That's when somebody busts through the door, and demands to fight the Gorgon Fortress Master. This is the Fire King clan leader Kang Hwang, and apologizes for coming here accompanied by the Sea clan leader. But he can go first, right? Jaehwan notes that there is not need for that. They should both come at the same time, as he was in the midst of practicing his new technique, so he would rather not waste time. This shocks both of the challengers, and Chung Hyo says that things are going to get messy real quick today. Hwang steps forwards, and hopes that he doesn't regret what he just said. He charges in with all of his might, and unleashes a flame attack upon Jaehwan, which he dodges quite easily. The attack hits the wall, which makes Chung Hyo scream at both. They both clash swords, and Hwang asks if he is actually scared of the flames that are coming from his sword. Jaehwan denies this, and prepares a mighty punch, which is engulfed in flame the moment it hits the sword. Hwang barely manages to block, giving Jaehwan the opportunity to attack, with some final words, those being that he should tell him later if he is scared of his thrust. Jaehwan ends the fight by creating a gigantic hole in the wall, which he most likely sent Hwang through. The Sea Clan master puts out the remaining flames that were strewn about and notes that Meathead will be fine. Jaehwan asks why he didn't fight with him, and the Sea Clan master explains that he simply hates the heat, but now they will have plenty of room and time to fight. Even the lights in the room are put out, and they both stare at each other. Jaehwan thinks that up until now, he fought electricity and fire, but now there is water too. This reminds him of a certain monster-catching game, but nonetheless, this guy seems to be stronger than the other two. He charges in with a thrust, but Kaiman blocks it, and then parries the attack, giving both of them space. Jaehwan thinks that this guy is quite different from the others, as he is just not charging in like a maniac, but actually calculating his every move. He tries to hit Jaehwan, however. He dodges swiftly and raises himself into the air, where he has ample room to unleash a bigger attack. Before it can hit, however, the Sea Clan master dodges, although barely. He stares at the rubble that Jaehwan created with a single attack and notes that if he was hit by something like that, he would have been utterly crushed. With that, he gives up the fight, and Jaehwan asks why, as he has yet to show him his full power. Kaiman explains that, even without that, the result is pretty obvious if one thinks about it, but since he lost and all, they should talk about the Abyss expedition. Huang comes back from his adventure inside of the walls and screams at Yong for lying about Jaehwan's strength, as he got his ass beat because of it. Chung-hyo notes that he should blame himself for losing, not Yong, which makes him even more mad. Yong mocks him lightly, saying that, since they both lost the fight, they are required to join the Abyss expedition, without any fuss. Kaiman explains that he came here with the intention of joining the expedition in the first place, which surprises Yong, but Huang knows exactly why. Kaiman was the closest friend of the previous fortress master, Amel, and because he was weak, he wasn't able to join the expedition when it first happened. When the expedition returned home, without any fruits, and beaten to a pulp, with most of them being just gone, he was the first to witness the fall of the greats. That happened 900 years ago, and it seems that, ever since he saw that, Kaiman has been waiting for an opportunity like this, while patiently sharpening his sword. He notes that he was intending to go into the Abyss in the near future anyways, so this seems like the perfect opportunity to do it, for him at least. Chung-hyo tries to say something, but knows that this man is filled with ambition, and instead asks Huang what he intends to do. He knows full well that he lost, and he is a man, and has already come to terms with having to go. Chung-hyo also asks Yong about his choice, and he says that he just decided. That's when he suddenly bolts towards Jaehwan, taking everyone by surprise. Chung-hyo tries to warn him to not fight that man again. Has he really lost his senses? Jaehwan gets ready to attack, but instead of doing that, Yong bows down with all of his might, which confuses the other people even more. Yong explains that, from this moment forth, he, the Lighting God clan leader, Woon Yong, swears utter loyalty to him, the Gorgon Fortress Master. Jaehwan stares at him for a second, and notes that there is no need for him to do all of this. Yong doesn't stop, however, and explains that he would still like to do it, and will even swear his loyalty, even if he has to die. Jaehwan tells him that he is already dead though, which makes him want to cry, but continues. Even if that is true, he asks him to accept him as one of his family members. He would be fine with just being a mere captain, if he has to. Chung-hyo wonders what family he is talking about, while Yong promises to not steal secret martial manuals, something which he doesn't have a good record with. Chung-hyo tells him that, first and foremost, he is the Lighting God clan leader. So how can he say all of this, when he has a clan to take care of? With a defeated voice, Yong explains that his clan doesn't exist anymore in chaos. With him included, there are only 7 people who managed to barely survive. The Lighting God clan was utterly annihilated 1 week ago. Chung-hyo ponders the situation deeply, and asks Yong if it really is true that the clan is gone, which he confirms. Chung-hyo starts summarizing his situation as of now. His clan was basically done for, and so it happened that an opportunity arose, in the form of an one-on-one challenge to choose the new fortress master. With a mindset that told him to risk everything, he decided to come here, and try to become the fortress master in any way possible. However, when he actually fought Jaehwan, he lost so pathetically that it isn't worth describing. His clan is gone, he can't become fortress master, and now when he doesn't have anywhere else to go, he wants them to accept him. Isn't that right? Yong confirms that is precisely it, without a shred of shame. Chung Hyo finds all of this weird